Agriculture Minister John Steenhuisen has conducted an oversight visit to current beef feedlot as part of efforts to contain the ongoing foot and mouth disease outbreak. The visit follows a confirmed case at the country's largest beef producer. The news has sent ripples through the industry, with the Good Hope meat hyper, one of Cape Town's biggest meat retailers, warning customers of possible beef shortages and fluctuations in prices. Joining us now this morning to unpack the implications for consumers and the meat industry is Reaaz Ahmed, who is the owner of Good Hope Meat Hyper. A very good morning to you, Reaaz, and thank you so much for making time for us this morning. So when that first case was reported about 3 weeks ago, there was that notice that you had shared with your consumers about the possible implications, including the fluctuations and the availability of some of their favorite meat. What has that experience been like over the past 3 weeks?
Hi, good morning, Alder, and all your viewers. Thanks for having me on the show. It's certainly been extremely challenging, one of the most challenging periods that we've had to endure as a company, because it's constant consumers wanting information from you, as well as trying to navigate the situation in the background with suppliers, trying to source meat and ensuring that, we can supply our customers with safe food that is available for them. So it's certainly been extremely challenging for us, but not only for us, for the entire industry at the moment.
Yeah. What would you say was the most challenging during this period?
Well, I think when the news broke, we certainly had a lot of concerns from customers, and hence we decided to put out social media posts to inform customers. I think communication was key, especially in the beginning, as customers are obviously very concerned about their own health, what they consume. And in our situation, where we don't only supply retail customers, we also wholesale to corporate restaurants and catering companies, as well as we export some of South African beef products to all over the world. You're faced with a situation that you have to constantly communicate with your customers to ensure that, look, we are trying to manage the situation firstly. You yourself have to understand what abattoirs are obviously affected, what type of supply is being affected in terms of specific cuts and things like that, because obviously as you look at a beef carcass, there are certain products that are more in demand than others. And you have to manage the situation both with your customers and your suppliers. And yeah, that was extremely difficult at the time.
Yeah, we had asked your team to also share with us some of the fluctuations that you guys have experienced looking at the prices. I'm just going to ask our team to bring up that graphic quickly. There is foot and mouth disease increase in beef volumes between late May and early June. Beef carcass up by 22%, the beef crops up by 22% as well, and rib eye up by 32%. Can you just explain further for us what these numbers mean?
So when you get your beef carcass in, we often split it up and primalize it into different cuts, like your top side, your silver side, your sirloin, T-bone, fillet steak, all the different types of cuts. And this then goes down the line as it then causes increases in prices. As you can see there, for example, the ribeye, which is a very popular restaurant cut, went up significantly more because it's such a small piece of the total carcass. And, you need to really go through a large volume of carcass to build up stock of ribeye specifically, as you can see in that graphic there. So the ratio of beef cuts to the whole carcass affects the pricing of that particular piece of meat. And hence, I think in the beginning, there was certainly a bit of panic buying, from a lot of suppliers and consumers as well, because if you can imagine, if you're running a restaurant and this is an important piece of meat that you have to serve on your table, you have to ensure that you got supply of that product to service your customers. So a lot of those type of corporates especially were extremely concerned, and the retail chain stores were extremely concerned as to what they can possibly serve their customers at the particular time. And I think that drove up quite a bit of the pricing right in the beginning, where we had a massive fluctuation.
Yeah. And from the experience of some of your customers, especially the big guys, speaking now about the catering guys and people who are running restaurants as well, have they had a conversation with you at all about what this means for the menus that they're able to offer, as well as the pricing around it?
Aldrin, it's been certainly one of the most difficult things for us to deal with. When you're in a service industry where your customer depends on you to supply them with product that they're going to then sell to their customers and process and do wonderful things with, it's one of the most challenging conversations. When you have to tell the customer there's nothing you can do. I mean, that's one of the worst things to ever say, to just leave a person out there. So I think, if you look at my finance manager, Nico, he certainly had a lot of gray hairs where he's had to look at adjusting prices now with customers. So once again, it's about communication with your customers, about the situation, but also trying to source alternate meats as far as possible to satisfy the needs from abattoirs that are not affected. Often in this industry, we are we develop specs for our customers, and those specs are related to a certain abattoir produces meat of a certain quality, certain standard, and fat ratio is an example. So you develop a spec for a customer that's unique to that customer based on that. And when you have to change things, when you have to change things up, it becomes a really difficult conversation because you've developed trust in that particular product with the customer. And now for them to change to a different supplier, it does take a bit of holding hands with the customer and things like that. But the main challenge that we're currently facing with is the price fluctuation. When you're in a situation that you're running a restaurant and you've printed your menu, it's a national menu you've printed, you've developed your recipe based on pricing that I, for example, have provided to the customer. For me to now tell you there's a 20-odd% increase in a price, and you're going to have to absorb that. It leaves the restaurant with two choices. Either they're going to have to absorb it, or they're going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of rands in printing new menus and then dealing with that kind of situation. So it's really a serious, difficult situation for our customers right now to face and especially the smaller restaurants, you certainly feel for them as well, because they might not have that national footprint or that support that from a head office or from a central kitchen that you might expect at a bigger chain.
Yeah. The quarantine is still in place. The vaccination, of course, is being rolled out, especially if you look at with what's happening with current beef. Yesterday, the Minister of Agriculture visiting that facility, as well as our MEC for Agriculture in Gauteng. But when can we expect the prices of beef to go back down again? I wonder if that is even possible.
Look, I wish I could tell you, but I think the first thing is that we have to focus on containment, okay? Because what the success of this particular vaccination program is going to depend on is cooperation between the farmers, between the abattoirs, the auction houses, those type of things, especially when it comes to movement of animals. So I think the first thing that you have to do is to focus on containment. Yes, we all want to have that pressure. I mean, the average person in the street having to pay a significant amount of money more for basic protein, it's very hard to stomach, you know what I mean? So I just think that we have to focus on containment first. And if we get that cooperation between local, provincial, and national government, we can certainly prevent the further spread of this foot and mouth disease. I think that's the first thing we have to focus on. Once we've managed containment, I think the reality of the situation is that when it comes to our partners that we export to, those markets might take a bit of time to gain confidence once again in our products. So there might be a bit of resistance from them to purchase from our local suppliers. And I think at that point in time, when supply does start ramping up and we don't necessarily have that demand pressure of exported products, we'd find that prices should start coming down slowly. So although there isn't a time frame in terms of when this is going to happen, there certainly is a plan of action that would allow this to happen.
Yeah. And as a business, has Good Hope Meat Hyper suffered any financial consequences because of this?
Yes, we certainly have, unfortunately. I think the first thing is in the first few days, you get people bringing back meat, and, you have to reassure them that this meat is safe, but that was kind of a problem. So, and you have to understand, where the person is coming from, giving them a level of information, and you have to accept in the day and age of social media and WhatsApp messages and things like that, that there are also those very valid concerns. But you have to accept that. So that's certainly one thing that happened right in the beginning. Secondly, I think when it comes to the export market, we obviously have had pushback from clients, maybe wanting to see this out. So that has definitely resulted in some losses for us as well, losses in sales. And yeah, I think with some of the restaurants, you see definitely buying patterns have changed. Consumers are buying less in their baskets. Consumers are buying basically what they need, and people have migrated a lot over into chicken, which is also an industry facing its own challenges with the avian flu in Brazil at the moment. So you can definitely see your baskets being reduced in store, as well as from the wholesale side. You're certainly seeing that there is major resistance to price changes and people wanting cheaper alternatives. So yeah, those are some of the challenges we have faced.
Yeah, we're actually running a poll this morning. We're asking our viewers, have they noticed beef price changes due to the foot and mouth disease? And the majority, 51% saying that yes, and therefore they are buying less, 10% saying that yes, the prices are up, but they're still buying the same, and 39% saying that they haven't really noticed. Is there anything at all that jumps at you as I read these numbers to you?
Well, I think I speak a lot to my customers. The second point you just raised there, where people are saying, I noticed the price change, but beef is an important protein for me, for my family. It's something we use. I mean, I want you to imagine in our business, for example, we use beef in our processed meats, in our burgers, our sausages. That's just besides your normal steak and your mince and those type of things. So it's a protein that's used throughout our entire product base, and the applications for it, especially in a halal community, which we are, where we can't go to pork as an example. You're faced with a lot of customers saying, I'm seeing these price increases, but it's important for me to feed my family with this particular quality, and I'll bite the bullet. And also from our side, I think when you have these increases in price, you can't just all pass it on to the customer. You have to absorb some of it at least to soften the blow, and you try to buy smart and those type of things. So we're certainly trying to help customers as best as possible to overcome the situation for this period of time.
All right. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Reaaz Ahmed is the owner of Good Hope Meat Hyper.